Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. And in this podcast, Blake and I are going to talk about the biggest hot shots and have nots of the past couple of weeks. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend. He's leaner, he's cleaner, he's Blake Creamer. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
I'm fine. I'm definitely not leaner. All right. I'm going the opposite way there, but cleaner? Sure. Thank you, Nate. That's very nice. I'm doing good. Do you remember those days, Nate, when, we didn't have the podcast and we just played fantasy hockey and all the leagues we were in were terrible and we just ran house. We just crushed. You remember that? You remember when people didn't have our information to use against us? I'm getting absolutely trucked in our listener league, buddy. These guys, all right, they're showing no mercy. They're sweeping the leg all over the place. I don't know. But, other than that, I'm actually having a pretty good week. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right. I'm experiencing some similar things in the patron league. I'm third in the league this week, going into this week, and I'm coming out just slightly on the losing side. It's a Cats league, so right now I'm losing 4-3. Finally tied it up in blocks. We'll see how the last game here with the Colorado Ottawa that's ongoing while we record ends things for me. But it's been up and down, I will say. Finally gonna get a W in Cupful.
All right.
Definitely enjoying myself in the Experts League where I had all those extra picks after selling the farm last year.
What's your record?
I'm going to 3-0, looks like.
Jeez, you know what? My record's 3-0 as well in the Expert League. And I didn't have a pick till like the 14th round, for God's sake. I mean, that's kind of funny, isn't it, Nate?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I've never heard something so funny. But anyway, I think I think we can I think we can move on to the newsies. I don't know how long people really want us to diatribe about our leagues. Let's get into it. We've got Shane Pinto out week to week is the official word now. So I don't know who is rostering Shane Pinto at the moment. Some deeper leagues for sure. But he hasn't actually had the greatest start, especially under the hood. So hopefully that's not a big hit to your lineups there. Probably just more emphasis on the top six, if anything, there in Ottawa. Drouin was upgraded to day-to-day, could be close to a return. Blake, what do you think happens? Jonathan Drouin or Ross Colton on power play one?
I think they're going with our boy Cameo Colton. There's no way they could take him off when he's playing like this. That wouldn't make a bit of sense to me. I think Drouin will probably. I would be surprised if he doesn't start on PP2 and then probably take Middlestat off of power play one at some point.
I think that's quite possible. I'm a little worried about it. I'm not gonna lie, but we'll see when he comes back what they decide to do. It could be a situation like where Drouin gets back on the top line and they just want to kind of move things back to where they had the original plan for things. But Colton, I don't think they'll take off the top power play until that really cools down. So I think that much at least is safe. But then that's probably going to put you in a bit of a weird spot with how are we kind of valuing both of those players moving forward. So we'll see. We don't need to litigate everything this moment, but
just enjoy what we have while we have it.
Let's do that. Brian Rust not going to be enjoying anything anytime soon. Injured Saturday, couldn't put any weight on his leg as he left the ice, was pretty upset about it. Pretty strong potential that he's going to miss some time here. We don't have any real update there, but yeah, based on the way things unfolded, I think we'd be surprised to see him back anytime soon. Cam York out 2 weeks minimum with an upper body injury. So if you are depending on Cam York for all of your fantasy greatness this year, unfortunately, that's not going to be available to you. Alexander Barkov could return on Monday. It was speculated that he might return at the end of this past week here. It didn't happen, but looking like he might make his return here against Buffalo. And what does that mean for Anton Lundell, Blake?
I don't know. I mean, our super stream is over first off, but this guy has acquitted himself admirably. And I've said this before, but it's just a great data point for if Barkov goes down, even anybody now. I think in that top power play, like Lundell is going to be first man up, and he's shown that he can hang with the big boys there. And I think he's legitimately taken a step this year. But yeah, it's gonna hurt his fantasy value for sure. He's probably trending to a drop at this point.
I think you have to think that that's probably what's going to happen here. Another player whose run has stopped is JT Compher. He has recovered from his illness. We can say that we may have mentioned in the last podcast where things maybe got a little bit derailed at times. But I don't know, Blake. Do I dare give you the microphone at this point, or should I just continue on?
You bet your sweet bippy you give me the microphone. Diarrhea here, Nate. That's my specialty. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I like how you put that. Conference run has stopped. Why? What? That's so crazy. That's the most insane injury status update I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And I mean, anytime you can make a solid poop joke like that, I just feel like you have to take it.
You got to do it. Yeah.
You got to do it. Kevin Fiala, speaking of pooping in your pants, was benched in the last game.
Okay.
Looks like he's in the doghouse.
This is the podcast now, folks.
This is it.
Yep, that's fine.
Just get used to the new normal. That's all I can say. Yeah, Fiala in the doghouse. I don't think it'll last, obviously, but it is unfortunate. And as you mentioned, data points, like this is not something that we expected to see for Fiala, but yeah, things are a little bit weird in LA this year. Like the Kemper, that Ottawa game, I think may have just like kind of messed things up a little bit for everybody mentally. Yeah, I still feel like I don't know what to make of the team. Byfield was a center. Now the last number of games he's been exclusively left wing. Are they just giving up on him being the franchise center now? Like it seemed like he was the anointed one for so long. Yeah, it just feels very off in LA right now. They won the game, like they got it done in the end, but like how long does that last? Yeah, I'm just not feeling comfortable with anything going on in LA at the moment. Tristan Jarry is now in Wilkes-Barre. I don't even know how to say that. Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Bar?
I don't know. Say it, Frenchie. Say chowder.
I've read it 1,000 times and I'm just realizing I don't think I've ever said it out loud. But anyway, WBS is where Tristan Jarry is for the next couple of weeks, according to Kyle Dubas. It's a quote unquote conditioning loan. Nedeljkovic, Blomqvist, kind of feel like it's just going to be a split here. Blomqvist seemed pretty good on Friday. Yeah, I don't honestly know what to make of what's going on there at the moment. Both of these guys, I think, will probably split until one of them has a good game, and then they'll probably try to ride it again, and then it'll probably, yeah, just descend back into chaos. But that's the situation in the Pittsburgh net at the moment. Good news on the Riley and Jonesy front. We have Morgan Riley and Seth Jones back on the top power play. Was there ever any doubt that this would happen, Blake?
I had a little doubt, yeah, but you know what? Not so much in Chicago. They slipped the pickle back down to PP2. All right, Mike Vlasic. What's his name? Mark? Alex.
Very close.
We'll edit that out.
We'll edit it out.
Yeah, who's that? San Jose? That Mark Edward Vlasic. That's what I was thinking. Right. Yeah, see, I had something in there, right? Anyways,
yep, there was definitely something.
There's a guy turning a crank inside here. He's taking a break.
All right, let's move along and get into some hot shots here. We got to start off with the players that we've probably talked about the most throughout the offseason into the season so far. Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Boldy, both doing the thing. Kaprizov leads the league with 11 points in the last 5 games, skating over 23 minutes a night. It's absolutely electric, can't be stopped. Matt Boldy got 6 points in 5 games, pales in comparison, but he's actually got better underlying stats than Kaprizov does at the moment. Either way, I think both of these guys are pretty obviously just terrific players. They're going to do great things for you, both pacing for well over 100 points, 41 goals apiece. What do you want to say about these guys that we haven't said already, Blake?
Not much, but it should go. We should talk about how at even strength, the Minnesota Wild really are not doing the thing. It's a lot of power play damage that they're doing, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously this line, Kaprizov, and I guess they're top six reasonably, but certainly Kaprizov's line is getting it done at even strength. But everybody else is just treading water. It's really weird. I was just looking up their Corsi 4/60 at 5-on-5, and they're 31st in the league. Like, damn, that's not great. I mean, you got to shoot to score, boys, and it's not really happening. So I'm glad that Kaprizov and Boldy are doing that right now. Yeah, you made an interesting point on Boldy there. Just like the discrepancy in his metrics, like last few games here, 5 games, 6 points. That's great. 31st in shots to goal per 60, but 200th in individual scoring chances for. That's a little bit odd. That's an oddity to me, and I'm kind of
Yeah.
wondering what it looks like. Is he just ripping pucks? He's getting over the blue line, getting in the faceoff circle, ripping pucks, or you kind of mentioned maybe the pucks are just going in, right? The ones that he's doing, but I don't know. There's some interesting stuff there in Minnesota. It's not a wagon, you know what I mean? It's not like a
Yeah.
sure thing. We need obviously they need some power play deployment, but I mean Cap is really good to go. This guy looks excellent. 115 points you had him for. That looks like very reasonable to me at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to add. I just think both these guys I'm feeling pretty vindicated on. Obviously, it's very early going. We've
Yeah,
played 8 games for both these players so far,
great
but
start.
it is a great start and well on the way to hitting our projections for them. Let's head over to Vegas. Mark Stone now leads the league in points with 17 in 9 games there. Jack Eichel not far behind. He's got 15 points in 9 games, 9 for Stone in the last 5 and 7 for Eichel. Both playing Mark Stone almost at 19 minutes a night. Jack Eichel just over 20. Underlying stats are like not terrific here, which is kind of curious. Again, maybe a case of the pucks just going in a whole lot for
Yeah.
them, and so there's not a lot of second and third shots on any particular possession. Both these guys in the last 5 games, 20.3 on ice shooting percentage. So yeah, I think the puck is definitely going in. These guys will obviously, I think, regress from this point. I don't think anyone's expecting Mark Stone to score at a 155-point pace for the rest of the season, or Eichel at 137 for that matter. But Blake, what do you think is a reasonable expectation? I'm guessing you've had some time to reconsider your position on Mark Stone moving forward.
Uh, I guess I have to. When you lead the league after 9 games, I mean, you can't be like, he's on my do not draft list, folks. Although he was, and I don't know. I mean, it's what have you done for me lately? And this was a guy that had 5 straight seasons of major injuries. Going into the playoffs, like tweets coming out saying he's going to be in and out of the lineup the rest of his career, and now of course he's popping the hell off. But I mean, Mark Stone is one of these guys. Like, he doesn't show out in the metrics that we like, and he never has. He doesn't
Yeah.
generate his own shots. He doesn't generate his own scoring chances, but he's really good at generating chances and shots for his line mates. And now that they've got him playing with Jack Eichel, we know what a wagon this guy is, right? And it is weird that Jack Eichel's stats aren't really popping off the page either, right? These guys are living off massive efficiency. Vegas as a team, but this is for real, man. 17 points in 9 games, like, and he's been able to do it so consistently. He's getting a ton of ice time. He looks good out there. So I don't know. Is the injury narrative gone with Mark Stone? Like, if he can play like 70 games this year, like, I think he's had such a great start. Like, we could be looking at point per game Mark Stone pretty easily.
Yeah, I think I could be here for point per game. Mark Stone, as long as he stays healthy, as long as he continues the Eichel exposure, is pretty crucial to me because it definitely falls off behind Eichel. Thomas Hurdle is playing really well.
Yeah.
We'll get to him, but yeah, definitely Eichel's a tier of player above Thomas Hurdle in pretty much everybody's estimation. So getting that Eichel exposure is that thing that could put Stone at that point per game pace. Apart from, I think I had him projected somewhere around the 70-point pace on the season. So I think that's kind of the difference that you're getting if you're getting that Eichel bump throughout the course of the season. As far as injuries, you know me, I'm willing to fade that. The price that you paid for Mark Stone, it did not matter if he got injured like a couple of weeks into the season. Like for
Yeah.
where you're drafting Mark Stone, it really didn't matter. So I hope people are reaping the rewards there. One other player I wanted to mention while we're on the topic of Vegas, Alex Pietrangelo, 8 assists in the last 5 games here. Is there anything to see here with Pietrangelo? He's got 11 assists, no goals, but 11 assists in 9 games on the season, on pace for a 0-goal, 100 assist season.
That seems absolutely sustainable. I think it's just a hot streak. It's just indicative of the way that Vegas has come out the gate here, converting on everything. And he's good at moving the puck out of his zone. He's a stalwart. The 11 assists is not expected at all, and it's not expected to continue. This is just a hot streak, but I mean, this is a guy that was probably drafted. I was not touching Alex Pietrangelo ever. All right. Unless he wants me to. It's terrible. Oh God, I'm sorry. Yeah, but this is, I was never excited about Alex Pietrangelo is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, I think this is going to go away just as quickly as it came here. But the production is really nice. I wish it was Noah Hannafin who was getting this kind of production, but it's Alex Pietrangelo. So there you go. Make it make sense, Nate. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Pietrangelo is just still a great defenseman who plays on a great team that's scoring a lot of goals right now, and he's managed to get in on a lot of them. 65% IPP. That's not going to sustain. He's going to probably be closer to half of that than he is going to be at that 65% rate. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think it's just a hot streak for Pietrangelo. He's kind of riding some coattails here. I don't think I'd change my preseason projection for him a whole lot. Let's move over to Buffalo. Tage Thompson carrying the load here, trying to elevate this Buffalo team that has struggled to do that for a number of years at this point. He's got 5 goals, 9 points in his last 5 here, just under 19 minutes a night. 56 shots per 60, 21st shot attempts per 60, 43rd in Corsi 4 per 60, 60th in scoring chances 4 per 60. Numbers are even better on the season. On pace for 64 goals and 100 points on the year. What do we make of Tage Thompson at this point, Blake?
I'm really excited. Obviously, we were big on Tage going into the year here, expecting him to kind of get back to previous levels. And I almost like what I'm seeing here a little bit more. Like the way that this line is constructed, I'm here for it. Like, I'm not really a big Jeff Skinner fan. I know you are, but I was never like, I think he's a one-trick pony, right? He's really good at that trick, but I think Peterka is much more well-rounded player. And I think he's, the way that they work together, like Alex Tuch, obviously the defensive presence on this line, the forechecker, the grit, right? And Thompson's just pumping pucks at the net. I love to see it. I think there was some injury stuff with Thompson last year too. I don't think he was fully healthy, and maybe something, with his shooting mechanics, right? Like something that's affecting his shot because he's flying out there. And I saw something recently too from Lindy Ruff that was really encouraging. It was just a quote, and it said, I love having guys like, or there, he was talking about this line, Tuch, Thompson, and Peterka's like, every coach wants a line like that. You're just so comfortable putting them out and they just get the business, or what I'm paraphrasing, but he was just so grateful that he had a line like this. So he feels completely confident putting those guys out there, and that's going to equal big things for Tage. I think, like the minutes here, pretty damn nice. He's already had 3 games over 20 minutes, which we rarely ever saw, certainly last year with Mr. Granato, right? But, he's right where we need in terms of deployment. Everything's aces up right now. I just pray this guy stays healthy, because I think, we're looking at 90-point Tage. If this keeps going, I think that's where we're going to land.
Yeah, I definitely would preach a little bit of caution with the 23% shooting percentage, 15.6% on ice shooting percentage on the season so far. That's going to come down a bit, but to your point, how much is it really going to come down? 73% IPP feels reasonable, so I don't think he's given up too much there. But yeah, I think 80 to 90 points with maybe approaching 50 goals is quite possibly within the wheelhouse for Tage Thompson this year, and that's pretty exciting. All right, let's move over to the Winnipeg Jets. We got Cole Perfetti scoring 3 goals, 9 points in his last 5. Nikolai Ehlers in on that as well, 4 goals, 8 points in his last 5. And then Neil Pionk has a goal and 8 assists for 9 points in his last 5 here, Blake. And he's 8th amongst all defensemen in shots per 60 in the last 5 games. What is in the water in Winnipeg?
I don't know. Team is an absolute wagon, 8-0. And to me, this looks like it's for real. Like, they're not just eking out some wins. Like, they're dominating out there, and they're getting big performances from unsung heroes, right? Cole Perfetti and Neil Pionk in particular. And then finally, Ehlers with the power play 1 deployment. We're loving that, right? I mean, to me, Pionk and Perfetti, that's not something that I'm I'm really that I think is sustainable. Certainly Pionk, like 10 points in 8 games. Again, it's kind of the Pietrangelo thing, right? He's on a
Yeah.
good team. That team's cooking right now, obviously, and he's getting in on some of these goals, right? But he looks good out there. He's obviously a valuable defenseman, and he's a guy that's played power play one before. Like before Morrissey popped off on his big season, it was kind of a split power play one between Pionk and Morrissey, and he did well out there. Like this is a guy that has some offensive talent, but he hasn't been asked to do that since Morrissey sort of separated himself as the offensive defenseman there. But I like Pionk, and I think, a lot of players probably did draft him. Fantasy players drafted him, like maybe in a last round pick or something, just pick somebody up. And now you're holding this guy because sheesh, he's popping the hell off, and you pretty much have to hold him until he stops. But yeah, Ehlers is a really good one too, because he's still only getting the 15 minutes, right? Which
Yeah.
sucks. But the power play one is really key. Even though he has only 3 power play points, I think there's a respect piece there. You know what I mean? Like a confidence that Scott Arniel is showing by putting him out there. And I think Ehlers is a proud guy, and he knows like he hasn't been at his best the last few seasons here. And I think he's just really looking good. He's flying out there doing his per minute stuff that he does. I'm really excited about Ehlers. And then Perfetti, I don't know what I think about Perfetti yet, to be honest. Like it's not a guy I'm like, you must add him. But I mean, 9 points in 8 games. The metrics are really good. I'll let you get into that, but much better than they were last year. Like he's actually shooting the puck, which is something that he's not really known for so far in his career. So, I mean, what do you think about these Jets?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that pops out to me right off the top, number one in the league in PDO
Yeah.
throughout the first part of the season at all strengths. So definitely you've got some potential regression. For context, like Vegas is third, so they're even a little bit behind. Minnesota Wild with Kaprizov and Boldy, they're fifth. So yeah, there's some element to that happening here with Winnipeg for sure, and a good portion of that is coming from the second line.
Yeah.
Cole Perfetti in these 5 games are still averaging just over 14 minutes. So we're gonna have to see more minutes for Perfetti to really sustain anything. It's just math. Like you can't possibly sustain a high level of production at 14 minutes, no matter who you are. So, yeah, there's that element to it. But yeah, 39th in shots per 60, that's a good number. The scoring chances, like both these guys, Ehlers is there at 23rd in shots per 60, but both these guys not really doing it in terms of the scoring chances. Perfetti's at 245th in individual scoring chances for per 60 over the last 5, and Ehlers at 173. And that's kind of reflected in their on ice numbers as well. The Corsi for looks really good, but the scoring chances for not quite so good. And so that to me is also a little bit worrying where, yeah, it does seem like the maybe some less dangerous shots have just gone in a little
Yeah.
bit more
Squeaking in.
in the last little bit. And they're going to have to do more and still with less ice time than most others to really kind of keep this thing going. I would be okay with a sell high on both of these guys at the moment if that's available to you. Ehlers is a guy that I've always said I don't really want to sell because I do think he's got that pop off potential. Don't wish it on anyone, but an injury up the lineup or a promotion to the top line, if he ever gets that 18, 19 minutes, then he could really pop off and actually kind of sustain this kind of level of production in my mind. But yeah, just knowing what we know about this situation, it really does feel like this is probably the pinnacle of the season for both of these guys. And so I would be okay with a sell high if you can swing it. Let's move over to Ottawa, where their line 2 is carrying a lot of the water there as well. Pretty similar to Winnipeg, actually, if you stop and think about it for a second. Drake Batherson headlining the group there. 5 goals, 9 points in his last 5 here. Absolutely crushing it. Giroux has 3 goals, 7 points in his last 5. And then Josh Norris, 3 goals, 5 points in his last 5 there. All of them getting 18 and a half to 19 minutes a night. Batherson's the one with the best underlying metrics. He's 70th in shots per 60, 159th individual scoring chances for per 60, so even that's not terrific. Claude Giroux and Josh Norris, their underlying stats are not nearly as good. You got Giroux and Norris both in the 200s in shots per 60.
Yeah.
Drew's 311th in individual scoring chances for per 60. Norris is at 192, so I guess that's better, but it doesn't feel a whole lot better when you're comparing it to everybody across the league. So is this just another case where we're just getting some crazy production? It's all going to go away soon, or do you think there's some chemistry being formed here? What's your take on the Ottawa line 2 and these players individually, Blake?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Like certainly some chemistry here. Like this line does look good as well. And Giroux is a great facilitator. Like he's a guy that reminds me of Crosby in the way that he's aging and the way when he ages, he's adjusting his game. He's adjusted his game to become more of a facilitator, and he's really good at that, right? And obviously Batherson is at the end of these passes. He's been looking really good. But I mean, if you look at all three of these guys again, it's a great comparison to that Winnipeg second line because I mean they're getting more minutes, which is the big difference. But again,
Yeah.
all based off massive efficiency. Like they're all in the 30% plus shooting percentage over the last 5 games. Like that's not sustainable. So these guys they're cooking right now. They're on a hot streak, right? So you know, they're kind of sell highs to me. I think again, like Giroux, I'd certainly want to get off Giroux. You know, it's weird. Like Brady Tkachuk to me he's been kind of invisible in a lot of these games, right? And Stützle as well. These guys aren't really doing what I had hoped they would do right off the bat. And this second line's kind of picking up the slack. But I think they will turn it around, Brady Tkachuk's line, and start going. And once they do, maybe the balance of power shifts a little bit, and these guys aren't expected to do as much. But yeah, this all said, like Batherson, I think I'm interested in the most out of all those players there. Giroux certainly should be rostered. Josh Norris is a bubble guy to me. Like I know we talked about him a little bit on the waiver show there. It certainly could be on a roster, right? But I don't think that he's must roster to me. I think that even his spot on power play 1 it's not locked down. I mean, it's certainly with Pinto out, like that's going to really secure his spot for a little bit. And Pinto's week to week. So what the hell am I talking about? But Norris, I don't know. I'm not fully sold. I know he's one of those guys that I think is a great asset in real life, and I'm the jury's still out for me a little bit in fantasy. Like I've got him in 2 spots, if for reference. Like I'm hoping for this guy, and I like the situation, I like the opportunity. The metrics stink, as you said, but I want to see a little bit more. I need a proof of concept here, and I haven't quite seen it yet.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take overall. I think Batherson and Norris obviously getting the power play 1 treatment. That's been pretty consistent, a carryover from last year. So that makes you feel at least a little bit of confidence that that's really what they want to do. Things seem to be working. The difference really between Winnipeg and Ottawa with these second lines is that like this line has actually gotten more even strength ice time over the last 3 games than the Stützle Tkachuk line has.
Yeah.
So this is like, it's more like a 1A, 1B situation where in Winnipeg it's a very clear delineation between line 1 and line 2. And actually line 3 in Winnipeg kind of gets a fair chunk of that even strength time, sometimes even more than the second line, the quote unquote second line. So there's there's definitely a difference in deployment between these so-called second lines. If you just look at them on your computer screen, they look like the second line. But when you start to figure out what that actually means in terms of their deployment, in terms of the actual time on ice, it's definitely a very different scenario here. And so that obviously gives all of these Ottawa guys a lot more floor than the guys in Winnipeg. Overall, I think Batherson is the guy that I feel the most confident in. Giroux not being on the top power play and not seemingly in the plans to be on the top power play anytime soon. That makes him the most expendable in my mind. But by the same token, Giroux is that consistent guy too, right?
Yeah.
So he's the one he's the most expendable, but he's also the most consistent game to game, season to season. And then Josh Norris, I'm in a similar boat with you. I'm hoping for the best here, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that nothing's really shown out in the underlying metrics here yet. And I'm wondering if this is going to get worse before it gets better kind of situation. Not that it can maybe even get that much better than what he's done the last 5 games here, but I think there's every chance that this goes a little south before Josh Norris starts to turn things around and generate some more stuff for himself here. All right, let's kick it over to Martin Necas.
Oh, yeah.
I think, Blake, you might have something to say about this guy. He's got 3 goals, 8 points in his last 5. Talk to me about your love for this man.
I'm loving this, buddy. I've got him on 5 teams. He was always available to me at a spot that I had him at value, right? And I reached a couple times, but even then it was in like, the high 80s or the low 90s where I was getting Martin Necas. And I just liked what, the Carolina Hurricanes got a lot thinner. Their bottom 6, like not too much to work with there, right? So like you got Jesperi Kotkaniemi centering the second line, right? And we make fun, but like, yeah, that's not a 2C. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He shouldn't be a 2C, but So that said to me, like, first off, they're going to have to put Martin Necas back on the power play. He's got to be on power play 1, which is kind of where he lost he lost 13 points right off the top from going to power play 1 to power play 2 in 1 year. So
Yep.
now he's back on power play 1. He's cooking. He's already got 5 points in 7 games there, which is awesome, right? And that's like, and big power play minutes too. They don't have a really good power play 2, so it's not a 1A 1B. They're launching power play 1 out there, and they're taking most of the time. And then second of all, yeah, at even strength, he's getting reasonable deployment. And, again, with Kotkaniemi, I'm not steaming this man up, but I think that Necas and Kotkaniemi have a little bit of chemistry. They've played together before in the past. Granted, when Necas had a big season, Svechnikov was on that line too, right? And that's why they were good, not because of Kotkaniemi. But everything's just been really, really good for Necas. Obviously, he's running a little bit hot. 18.8% shooting percentage. Yeah, not crazy though. But what we like about Necas? We like the zone entries. We like he's an offensive play driver. That's what he does. He's running house on his line, and he's cooking on the power play, and he's getting put out in all the best situations to score goals, even like at the end of games and stuff like that. So I love to see that, especially in Carolina, where RBA has been wrecking fantasy managers ever since he took over as the head coach there. So this could be a fun year for Carolina. I talked to you a little bit about Svechnikov as well, like just another player that after the first 7 games, I'm massively high on. This team is doing some stuff. Got a lot of good fantasy assets.
Yeah, their top end guys are definitely getting it done at the moment. I'm just looking back at my projections for Necas Adam for 59 points on the season. 17:45 was my time on ice projection there.
Yep.
2 minutes 45 on the power play. That's where I think that Necas could mostly exceed my projection, is if the power play is good and he's getting a fair bit more than 245 throughout the season. It really does seem like they are going to run a true number 1 and just play the heck out of these guys on that top power play. So that's definitely a scenario where I can see him exceeding my projection by a fair bit. I still think he's probably absolutely capped at like a 70-point season. He's had a hot start here, so maybe he can exceed that. But like in terms of pace for the rest of the season, that would be my guess. But definitely the early returns are terrific. He looks terrific. Underlying metrics, all terrific. Carolina is a team that generates stuff. They have a great system. They know how to execute it. I would say he does have some chemistry with Kotkaniemi. I just think Kotkaniemi is a pretty fundamentally flawed player. And so that chicken is going to come home to roost at some point or another here.
Never.
But yeah, obviously you have to be more excited about Necas at this point than you had any right to be earlier in the offseason. Let's move over to Philadelphia, where we've got Matvei Michkov. He's got 6 points in his last 5 here, averaging over 19 minutes a night, which is the exciting part.
Yeah.
Less exciting, 331st in shots per 60, 362nd individual scoring chances for per 60, up to 9 points, 4 goals in 8 games this season. I feel like it's kind of a tale of two worlds here with Michkov. I'm very excited about the fact that he's getting 19 minutes a night. I am very unexcited about the fact that the underlying metrics have not looked good really at any point on the season so far for Michkov. On one hand, I want to give him the pass that he's a rookie. He's still figuring that stuff out. It should, in theory, for a player of his caliber, get better over the course of the season. But by the other token, I wonder if, when the efficiency starts to wane here, which it inevitably will if he can't improve those rate stats, when that starts to go away, does he start to experience the wrath of Tortorella that Morgan Frost just experienced over the weekend here? All these things are playing in my mind. I really hate everything Flyers just because of the torts factor. And I'm wondering, Blake, if you think this might be just a good sell high moment for Matvei Michkov.
I think so. I mean, this is, what are we expecting from Michkov? Like Bedard was able to get, what did he get? Like 60 points last year or something like that. Yeah, he was injured, but I think it's reasonable to think that Matvei Michkov could come close to that. But yeah, the torts factor. It's like, when is he going to get his first healthy scratch? It's not if, it's when. Like, oh yeah, you had a weak board play there. Okay, sit on the bench for the rest of the third period and miss the whole entire game next time. It's like, this is some bull crap what the Torts does here. I hate this. I mean, is this really a motivating factor? My God. I guess it is, because he's a professional coach and he's in charge of a team. So I don't know, but I hate it. Like, this crap with Frost is insane. The guy was playing pretty damn well, but you just never know, right? It's like, who's going to get benched next? And for that reason and that reason alone, yeah, I think I would be happy to sell high on Michkov. I think he's still such a young guy. This isn't going to be like a, Connor Bedard Connor McDavid, like right out the gate, a crap ton of points. No, he might get 60 points. So you're selling high on a guy that has a lot of name value who might get 60 points if he's able to stay in the lineup. But yeah, I like you. I am also excited and encouraged by the ice time so far. But I mean, we just don't know. And I don't like that variance. I like consistency. For that reason, yeah, I could easily trade Mitch Cobb and feel happy. I didn't get him anywhere. Did you?
No, I didn't get him anywhere. I avoided Flyers players pretty successfully this year in my drafts, so don't have any Michkov anywhere to deal personally. But if I did, I think I would be at least exploring the option here at the moment. Thomas Hurdle next up here, continuing on the Vegas theme. He's got 3 goals, 7 points in his last 5, 17 minutes, 45 seconds average time on ice, 79th in shots per 60, 12th individual scoring chances for per 60 in the last 5 games. That's really good stuff from Hurdle, up to 10 points in 9 games on the season. Definitely exceeding expectations here. I think the interesting part for Hurdle, for me personally, is that I was looking at this lineup and wondering who he was going to play with on a night-to-night basis, wondering if they had a good enough set of wingers to really make him pop. And, we've got some emergence here with Pavel Dorofiev, who we'll get into more a little bit later. Even with Mark Stone going up to the top line and him not getting any exposure there, I do think that Hurdle's got some players that he can actually play with. Obviously, we know the back end super solid in Vegas, and so they're transitioning the puck up and putting Hurdle in good spots that way. But overall, I had him for 66 points. I think I might adjust that up slightly, but I don't know that I'm willing to, say that he's a big time lock for 70 plus at this point. Like, I might put him in 65 to 70 now, where I might have said 65 was probably closer to his ceiling than his floor before. How are you feeling about Hurdle with the hot start?
I'm not excited. I feel like, again, this is just, it's classic sell high stuff. It's like massive efficiency. He's actually shooting less than he normally does, right? And yeah, Pavel Dorofiev, we'll talk about him later. Like, he's had a couple good games and he's a good player, but he's also a young player. And with young players comes variance, right? And bigger highs and lower lows, right? So I mean, this Vegas has had a great start. Everybody on the team is getting in on the action, and Hurdle's right there, right? And the power play's been great too. They're 5th overall in conversion rate. The Vegas power play, they're really cooking there. So it's all good for now, but I could just as easily see Hurdle going through like, a 5-game stretch with nothing or like 1 assist, like if things start kind of going the other way. So I think I'd be selling high on Hurdle. I don't like the shot production there, and he's shooting less, scoring more. So that to me is kind of indicative of something that I'm not really wanting to hold on to. And again, Hurdle's not a player I got anywhere. First off, because he's center only. I don't like that. And then, just a player that I sort of missed out on this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The one thing that is giving me more pause, the scoring chances being up this year, that's the thing that's got me a little bit more interested than I thought I would be in what Hurdle's bringing to the table at the moment. Last one here, Connor McMichael. He's got 3 goals, 7 points in his last 5 here, over 16 minutes. Underlying metrics are pretty atrocious. Is this as cut and dried as it appears on the surface here, Blake? Would you just consider this to be a big time efficiency setting here, and you're willing to drop him as soon as it goes cold?
Yeah, I'd be willing to drop him right now. I mean, I don't even think he's rostered in a lot of spots, honestly. Like, it's great. He's a good young player, really good young player. 25th overall draft pick in 2019. That's nice. Like, for a guy to come in here and sort of pop off the way he has, it's a nice piece. And he's playing with PLD. What do you expect? All right, that's what happens when you play with Pierre-Luc Dubois. All right. You get better. All right. But yeah, this is not someone I'm super excited about. In fact, this last game against Tampa Bay, he played 15 minutes. Donuts. Okay. He had 1 hit. He was -1, nothing else. So yeah, you take the good with the bad. I think he's a great streamer for Washington if you need a capital for your week.
All right. I tend to agree with that. Pretty much 100%, except for the PLD bit.
Oh, no.
Let's
Come
get
on.
over to the Patreon plug. Supporter tier, $2 a month gets you access to patron-only live shows. I'll have another one coming up in November, so stay tuned for that. Apple's tier, $8 a month gets you the patron-only live shows, also gets you patron-only Discord channels. You can get in there and talk with a whole bunch of other patrons. People who are taking this pretty seriously, have some good advice. I'm in there a lot myself. You can also check out my show notes, which I post to Patreon, also post in the patron-only Discord channels. And you'll have show notes for this particular podcast, as well as, crucially, the waiver wire stuff, all my rankings for the players that I'd be picking up for the upcoming weeks. You'll get that early in advance, so you can set up your weeks and stream your way to victory, is what we would like to say.
All right.
The Apples and Geos player evaluation tool is also a part of the Apples tier. Lots of people posting screenshots from that. They seem to be really enjoying it. It's what Blake and I are using when we're talking about all the stats that we're bringing to you on the podcast here. So, yeah, definitely another piece that you can get if you're in the Apples tier. If you want to, you can go up to the $15 a month Genos tier. You get all the previous perks I mentioned. Plus, I will answer every single one of your questions, guaranteed. Blake, are you ready to move along?
I'm ready, but buddy, you always forget to mention this. You know, that extra level, that extra tier that you pay extra money for. You know what? I paid money and Nate agreed to go on a road trip with me to Vegas. All right. And you know, we just drove there for one night. You know what we wanted to do? Go to the M&M store. All right, that's all we did. We just went there. Remember, we got those hats, and I ate so much that I got sick. Remember, and you had to hold my hair when I was puking into that gutter. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm a little bit confused by the holding the hair part for obvious reasons,
Well,
but
I still have hair in the front. I mean,
oh,
what do you
right,
do?
yeah.
Come on, that's what the puke gets in. Oh God, Nate.
Okay, after story time, we will get into the have-nots. Zach Hyman and Steven Stamkos are still here, Blake. Anything changing for you? Are we holding the line on the buy low here, or are you feeling more and more queasy as time goes by?
Well, I'm definitely feeling more queasy, but yeah, I'm holding the line on buy low. The fact that we're talking about him again means you buy him even lower. All right. You kick a waiver pick out to him. You're like, give me Zach Hyman. They're like, sure, whatever. I don't want this piece of junk. But yeah, Hyman, it's a tough one, man. Hyman is really frustrating. I watched not this last game tonight, but the game before, and he's really squeezing the stick. You could tell, like, he wants this to end. Whatever this was, he got gifted an assist. He basically, it went off his foot, and then whoever put the puck in the net. But yeah, like the guys are looking for him. Draisaitl's on the bench, like, it's okay, buddy, come on. Like that's kind of the vibe with Zach Hyman right now, and you can tell he's not himself. He's definitely lost a lot of confidence. So the longer this goes, the worse it is. He needs to get a goal, and a nice goal, right? He needs to have a big game, and yeah, it's frustrating for sure. But obviously the metrics are still great. They're great with Hyman. So I trust that. And I trust the deployment. He's got great metrics, great deployment, great opportunity. He's not scoring. That cannot continue, right? I remember players like this last year. Matthew Tkachuk, right? Brandon Montour when he came back. There's a bunch of players like even Ovi last year. Remember, it's like, this cannot continue. The guy is shooting the lights out. He's getting a ton of chances. Nothing's going in. So eventually it'll go in, and you want to be there when it does with Zach Hyman. For Stamkos, yeah, I mean, he put up a pretty light game here in this last one in Nashville where they won, which is mildly concerning for sure. Like, it was just a kind of a nothing game, a real vanilla game from Stamkos, and he was doing okay before that. Like the metrics were okay, but I mean, 1 goal in his last 5. Ugh. And I think they're coming up on the Tampa Bay game, so that's going to be a really interesting one for Stamkos because I know he's going to be emotional going in there. I think he's going to be extra motivated. I would love to see Stamkos pop off in that game and then just hit the ground running after it and going. I could see that absolutely happening, or I could see him getting, nothing going on and then, this carry on for another 2 weeks or something. So, by the way, shout out to any of those fantasy managers that have Hyman and Stamkos on the same team. That's who I have in the listener league, folks. And my record is going to 0-3. Thank you, Zach Hyman. Thank you, Steven Stamkos, for your service or lack thereof.
Yeah, I think I am still holding the line on Zach Hyman and Steven Stamkos as well. Hyman, I feel much more confident in still in these last 5 games, second in the league, individual scoring chances 4 per 60, fourth in on-ice scoring chances 4 per 60. I pretty much have no concerns with Zach Hyman. Steven Stamkos, the metrics have fallen off a little bit over the last couple of games here, so there's a little bit more concern with Stamkos, but it's concern more so in the range of like, okay, is he, whereas before the numbers were indicating to me that he had a ceiling up to like point per game, now is the ceiling more like in the 70 to 75 point range, and like that's still going to be fine, and you can probably purchase him for lower than that at this point. So yeah, I do think that Stamkos is a good buy low still. He's getting more deployment than I had him projected for in my baseline projection
Yep.
at the start of the season. That part is still exciting to me. Yeah, overall, I'm still in on buying on both.
But it hurts. Oh God, why are they doing this?
It may hurt for a bit, but we have to believe in something, Blake. Believe in something, man.
Hold the line.
Hold the door. Let's continue on to Elias Lindholm, who has 0 points in his last five. He has, yeah, just kind of gone completely cold. Started pretty hot. Like he's got 5 points on the season, and there are only 4 games before this last 5 game stretch. So you do the math, but 18 minutes, time on ice, 289 shots per 60, not great. 86 individual scoring chances for per 60, that's better. But yeah, just a confusing spot for Elias Lindholm. The Bruins did kind of shake off some rust with the game against the Leafs. Go figure. Yeah, where are we at with Elias Lindholm? So far, the deployment hasn't wavered, but you have to wonder if a new player to the team really does have the organizational trust yet to continue on indefinitely, even in the midst of a big time cold streak. What do you think here, Blake?
They just don't have anybody else to jump up there besides the Coiler, right? And I don't see them doing that, right? They're not going to move Zaka back to the middle. So I think Lindholm's role, this is one reason why I like Lindholm in the preseason, is just his role is pretty secure to me. It's line one, centering line one, and power play one. I don't see anyone else who's going to take him off there unless he starts really putting up some stinky games. But I mean, he shows out in things that aren't really, that we don't count, right? Like he's good defensively. He's really good defensively. He's a responsible guy. That's why he's still getting this ice time, right? Like every night through this little cold streak here, he's 19 minutes and over, right? Besides save one for that's, 1839. So, or no, what am I looking at? Oh God, I was looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, sorry. He's getting good deployment. I was looking at his average ice time per year. So that's just disregard all that, but he still is getting good ice time. So I'm not concerned, but obviously Pasta's not playing well. Marchand is a massive buy low. Right. And the team's just not doing the thing. And I'm digging in a little bit, even at even strength. Their Corsi 4, they're sixth worst in the league at chucking pucks, right? Their actual Corsi 4 percentage is sixth worst as well. Like, damn, it's the Boston Bruins, like this is not what I'm used to, right? Not that they were ever like insane at shot attempts, but I certainly didn't expect them to be in the bottom 6 in that metric. So I think things are they're going to right the ship there in Boston, but it's been a slog here, that's for sure. I am not concerned about Lindholm though.
Yeah, I have some concern for sure. My concern does not extend to David Pastrnak individually. Like he's sixth in shots per 60 the last
Yeah.
little bit, sixth on the season as well. Yeah, the underlying metrics look pretty good there for Pastrnak for me. Yeah, my concerns are more just about whether Montgomery and the organization as a whole really trust Lindholm to continue running him out there. I agree, it does feel like they have nobody else, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
The myth of rational NHL coaching is one that I will never ascribe to. So I do have some concern that this can't just go on forever, and we just expect that at some point he'll start to feel the Pasternak bump, and that it'll all become right again. Yeah, the underlying metrics are not good on the season. That's concerning to me. They've gotten a little bit better as of late, but it does need to take another step for sure. So I have some concern. I'm not dropping him or anything in any league that I have, but I am concerned. I am watching the situation pretty closely. Let's talk about a couple of guys who were pretty highly drafted. Sidney Crosby, Wyatt Johnston, both just one assist in their last 5 games, both in the 19 to 20 minute range. Johnston on the lower side of that, Crosby near to 20 minutes. Crosby's underlying metrics not looking so hot. 169 shots per 60, 320th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. On ice numbers are better. Yeah, 74th Corsi, 4 per 60, 99th scoring chances, 4 per 60.
Yep.
Wyatt Johnston has good underlying metrics, as he pretty much always does. 11th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 being the biggest one there. But he's got just 5 points in 9 games to start the season. Crosby does have 7 points in 10 games to start his season, but obviously neither of them have found much success as of late. Talk to me about your panic meter on both of these guys, where you see this thing going from here.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, when you got a guy that's Crosby's age and he's been doing it for as long as he has, it has shades of Ovechkin. And I'm not comparing those two like because they're two different players, but just in terms of age, like at some point there is age related decline. And I mean, I just watched the Canucks Pittsburgh game the other night, and I'm not seeing it with Crosby. I don't know. He still looks fast out there. He's still making good plays, but the team is listless. They have no confidence. They have no swagger right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if in Pittsburgh, like, Mike Sullivan actually gets the boot. I think I could see that coming if they continue to sort of spiral the way they are, because they did not look good. Like it was like playing a junior team for the whole second period there against the Canucks. They were winning every battle, just caving them in the offensive zone there. So, I mean, that said, like Crosby's shooting 4.2% right now. No, that's not going to continue. He's going to get more goals, that's for sure. He's not shooting as much though, like you said in the metrics there. Like it's not great. The power play is better, which like we predicted, right? Pittsburgh's power play is not going to be second last in the league or whatever it was. So I think they're 18th right now, which we'll take it. That's nice, yeah. Right? Like Crosby has 4 power play points. That's where he's getting a lot of his work done, right? Out of his 7 points. But yeah, I mean, I'm mildly concerned, but it's still Crosby. And until he shows me that he's truly fallen off, I'm still gonna trot this guy out there. I'm still gonna be kind of into him. Like he's coming off a 94-point season. I still think like 85 to 90 should be where Crosby lands, but this team needs to get going. That's for damn sure. And then why, Joe? Dallas is such a frustrating team for fantasy because of how Pete DeBoer deploys his forwards, right? It's who's going tonight. Okay, you're going. Yep, get out on the ice. Steve Duchesne, Matt Duchesne, get out there. And yeah, it's like you can't really trust the deployment. And, Wyatt Johnston's been getting deprioritized a little bit on a line with Jamie Benn. And who's the other guy on that line? I don't have it pulled up here, but
I'm not remembering off the top either. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Dadonov or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, they're not getting the majority of play. The number one even strength line is Matt Duchesne, Tyler Seguin, and Mason Marchment. That is what's going on at even strength. And then the power plays are kind of split sometimes. So it's like, and where's Wyatt Johnston? Like he was up on the top power play. He's been not on it at times, but more on it. I don't know, but I love to see the scoring chances. That's what Wyatt Johnston is known for, right? 11th in the league in individual scoring chances for over the last 5 games. It's going to come. I'm not too concerned. This is a buy low, but I also think you need to temper your expectations. Wyatt Johnston, I mentioned in the offseason, like not thinking that he was going to tank or he was going to have a terrible season, but I was preaching caution a little bit because I think we were steaming this guy, not we, but like the fantasy hockey community was like steaming him up so much because of what he was able to do in the playoffs there and sort of expecting it to roll right over into the regular season. And that just hasn't been the case. And I don't think it will be the case. I think we might be looking at a 70-point player, like a 65 to 70-point player again this season with, I think 100-point season in his future. Like 100-point Wyatt Johnston is probably going to happen in his career, but I don't know if I don't think it's going to be this year.
Yeah, I'm not finding too much to disagree with there. Agree on Crosby until I see long-term evidence that he's done. I'm going to just believe that he's still who he always has been, and this is just a little bit of a slow stretch for him personally. I would buy low on Crosby. I would reach out, honestly, if I thought that there was a chance to do so. Honestly, same goes for Joe. I would buy low on him here. Obviously, I'm going to love that individual scoring chances for metric that I
Yeah.
mentioned, the 19 plus minutes a night that he's gotten so far. He does kill penalties, so that is a part of that, but still, it's more than I expected for him in my projections at the start of the season. The on ice numbers not being so hot is a little bit concerning to me. The deployment with Ben and Dodonov is obviously concerning, but I think that they'll probably move some things around a little bit more. I don't know that that's the like final resting place for him on the
Yeah.
season. So yeah, overall, pretty unconcerned with Johnston, given the fact that the metrics haven't really suffered despite him being moved around a bit and just not finding the back of the net. Let's move over to Utah. Barrett Hayton, one of the players that we identified before the season as somebody that nobody was really talking about, but looked to be in line for line one power play one duties to start the season. That was working really well at the start of the season. It's cooled off. He's got just one goal in his last 5 games, a single point, just over 17 and a half minutes average time on ice. I will say individual scoring chances for still up there at 35th. The on ice numbers not looking too bad. 49th, Corsi 4 per 60, 59th. Scoring chances 4 per 60. So that part's still there. On the season, he ranks 8th in the league in individual scoring chances 4 per 60, if you can believe that. I think I'm still pretty in on Barrett Hayton. How are you feeling, Blake?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And thank you for including me in saying we called Barrett Hayton. You called for Barrett Hayton to have a nice season. And yeah, he had a great start. And I love the metrics and I love the deployment. So I think, yeah, Utah was feeling their oats, right? They were feeling it in their plums. All right. Right at the beginning of the season here, feeling good in the new city. But yeah, the shine's worn off a little bit. And now they're almost getting into the meat or they're starting to get into the meat of the season, right? Where
Right.
things aren't as easy or just carefree as they were in those first few games. And yeah, we're seeing that in Dylan Genther, right? Having some problems. Barrett Hayton, right along with the rest of the team. But yeah, I love to see these metrics here, the scoring chances in particular. But yeah, last 5 games, his IPP's 20%. His IPP's 55% on the season. I mean, without looking at his historical values here, like that seems low to me. It seems a little bit low. This guy is the defensive anchor on that line, so it is going to be lower than like let's say Clayton Keller or even Nick Schmaltz, right? But I think it should be probably a little bit higher than 55%. So yeah, he's rostered so little as well. Like I think he's like 18% roster or something like that. So you can leave this guy on the wire until he starts popping off again and then snap him up quick because yeah, we're looking at a line one power play one stud right here that I think has like 55, 50 to 55 point potential.
Yeah, I think that's probably like, yeah, the 55 points that he's on pace for right now is probably roughly accurate in my mind, to be honest with you. I think that probably rings true. The IPP's never really been an IPP guy, to be fair.
Yeah, I figured.
He's also, he's really only had that half of a season that he had with Keller and Schmaltz before, where things really started to come together for him in the NHL. So I don't want to just say that he can't be also improved at any point in his career. Certainly, the scoring chances are a good thing there. Yeah, I think 55 points. Maybe if we see some more development, or he gets a little bit lucky, we could see more than that. But I think as long as you're not expecting the moon from Barrett Hayton, you'll be happy with him for the rest of the season. Let's move on to the island. Matthew Barzal, Bo Horvat. Just 2 points, 2 goals for Bo Horvat, 2 assists for Barzal the last 5 games here, despite them both skating a ton of minutes. Matthew Barzal pushing 22 minutes, Bo Horvat at 20 and a half. Both just 4 points in 8 games to start the season. The 41-point pace here can't continue for these guys, can it?
No, it can't. It won't. It shan't. All right. But this is pretty disheartening, especially for a guy I was pretty personally excited about. I mean, the shooting percentage, he's a really poor, like has terrible efficiency in his career, but even this is bad for his standards. Like he's at 6.3 right now. The shots are down, which I hate to see. Like he had he did a pretty well with his shots on goal per 60 last year, and it's kind of fallen off a cliff here early on. Patrick Roy is giving me some weird vibes there in New York. It's like, I'm not sure what to think about it as of yet. I'd like to see like how the players are reacting. Like if it would not surprise me for a guy like Matt Barzal to come out and sort of call out the coach. Like he's pissed at what's going on there. You know what I mean? I'm just speculating, right? I've never heard anything like this, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Like it's a weird vibe what they were doing with the power play. They had Barzal on power play 2 at one point. But yeah, this guy is the play driver. He's the team's play driver. He's an amazing skater. He's the one carrying the puck in. He's the one driving offense, and he has 4 points in 8 games. Like, that's terrible, and that's why him and Horvat not doing so well. And now they got Simon Holmstrom on the line. Like, I mean, when they had Anthony Duclair up there, they were actually looking pretty good. I thought it
Yeah.
was a really nice line, and now you got Holmstrom up there, and it's not a fit. It's not a fit at all. I feel like Barzal has to do everything, right? And it's just not going to work that way. So we'll see what happens. They obviously got to get cooking on the power play here, and they have recently, at least in this last game, gone back to a top power play with Noah Dobson on the back end, absolutely, as they should. I don't know what the hell Patrick Roy is doing, but yeah, I'm concerned for sure, but you can't drop him. I'm not dropping Barzal. I have him in 2 spots. Like, I'm just going to keep throwing him out there probably for another 8 games. If he has 4 points in the next 8 games, then I don't know. Then I'm maybe like, maybe he's the new Jonathan Huberdeau. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm definitely not super concerned. Although, yeah, I had like an 81 point projection for Matthew Barzal. I don't think he's going to hit that this year, quite honestly. He would have to turn things around in a big way here. The underlying metrics are not like popping off in a way that would suggest to me that that's likely to happen anytime soon.
Yep.
I do share some of your concerns about Patrick Waugh. Maybe just not meshing quite as well as he did. It's in some ways it's a little bit easier for a coach to come in at the end of a season, just kind of give like a rah message and things close out a little bit better. It's sometimes a little bit harder to just get into a season and muck through the day to day. So I wonder if there might just be a little bit of an element of that. Things haven't gone well so far, and I do believe that they will get better, but
Yeah.
how much better is really the question here. And yeah, just based on the metrics, based on the early returns, based on just being willing this early in the season to just totally revamp things and make some pretty interesting power play decisions. And on a team that quite honestly doesn't have the offensive talent to be doing things like that with, that's just concerning overall in terms of the environment. So I share your concerns there. Let's move to Detroit. Dylan Larkin has 2 goals his last 5, but that's the only production he's been able to generate. Still skating close to 21 minutes a night, 66th in shots per 60 over the last 5, but 202nd in individual scoring chances for per 60, and the on ice numbers in the 200s as well. He has just 5 points in 9 games on the season, 45-point pace. Where are we at with Dylan Larkin? I was pretty into this guy at the start of the season. I thought he was one of those poster child center only guys that you could get a little bit later and kind of, get the best of both worlds, get your wingers early, get your center later, and he's just as good as a lot of the other centers that go earlier. But so far, the returns have not been there. I've been pretty vocal about my distaste for Detroit's system in general. I think Derek Lalonde is probably one of the worst coaches in the NHL right now. That's my take. There's definitely going to be some others with other takes, but yeah, I'm concerned about Detroit in general, but I still think I believe in Dylan Larkin, the player. How are you feeling, Blake?
Yep. No, I echo that for sure. I mean, I wrote this today on Twitter. Like, if other than Dylan Larkin's line, the bottom 9, they're just treading water. They're just out there to not get scored on, right? And they're still getting like the ice tilted against them. Whereas, when Larkin, DeBrincat, and Raymond are out there, their Corsi for percentage is good. Like, even in this last game here, they had a 62.5 Corsi for percentage. So they're doing well out there at even strength, but it's the other lines like Patrick Kane, Andrew Kopp, JT Compher, but he's crapping all over the ice. Oh my God. They had a 30% Corsi for percentage. So it's a drastic change, right? So it reminds me too of, and I'm just digressing a little bit here, but Quinn Hughes in Vancouver. Like, when he's on the ice, you can tell, right? Because the Canucks are moving at the play, they're attacking. When Quinn Hughes is off, everything's in the Canucks zone, right? And I think that's what's going on in Detroit as well, to a more extreme level, right? I just don't think they have the talent in the bottom 9. They their goaltending is elite this year, and I wouldn't have thought I would say that about Alex Lyon and Cam Talbot. Cam Talbot, I don't even know how he's doing this. It doesn't make any sense because he was really sheltered in LA in that goalie environment, and that was to me, I thought, a big reason why he had such a great start to that season. Well, he's not sheltered here in Detroit. And he's getting the biz, so I'm low key into that. But I also said this about Talbot and Lyon is like, when your Corsi forward percentage on the year is like as stupid as Detroit's is, and like they're the ice is tilted, they have to stand on their heads. So if they're not catching bullets in their teeth, then they're gonna put up a stinky game. And yeah, Dylan Larkin, he's great, but they can just key in on that line. So if they key in on the Dylan Larkin line, the other players have to beat them, right? And I just don't think it's going to happen on a regular basis. So, but in terms of Larkin, he'll be fine. I like the player a lot. I still think we're looking at like a point per game player.
Yeah. This game against Edmonton was pretty wild. I saw it early on, and I was like, wow, Detroit's actually doing something for
Yeah.
once. They had 28 Corsi 4 in the first period to Edmonton's 11, and then Edmonton just turned the
Yeah.
switch on, and the Wings couldn't keep up. 29 to 11 was Corsi 4 and against for the Oilers in the second period, 22 to 10 in the third, at 5v5, I should say. All these numbers at 5v5. And then the only chance at overtime is a goal by Leon Draisaitl. So that's how that game went for Detroit. They
Yeah.
just got absolutely dummied by a better team in the last two periods there. So, yeah, concern there, but not so much for Dylan Larkin himself. He is the engine of that team for sure. I want to get into these defensemen here. I think it's kind of a pretty interesting contrasting compare with a lot of these guys. Let's go for the top three here. Chris Letang, Charlie McAvoy, Mackenzie Weegar, all power play one guys, all bangers guys as well. So they all kind of share that element. They really do that, but all of them not doing a whole heck of a lot in terms of putting points on the board at the moment. Letang and McAvoy both no points in their last five. Mackenzie Weegar has a sole goal there. Where's your panic meter at? Maybe rank these guys for me, Blake. Can you rank these guys for me from most panicked to least panicked?
I mean, okay. So most panicked, I would say McAvoy probably. Like what he's
Okay.
doing is like, he's a really swift puck carrying defenseman. It obviously we know the power play in Boston has not been great, and we've talked about the struggles of their stars there and how they're all kind of by lows. Even though Pasta is putting up good numbers, like it's not equaling Pasta like numbers on the ice. So I think McAvoy's, he's a passenger there a little bit, and he's not getting those assists. Right. And he's not generating anything. So I say I'm probably most worried about McAvoy. Not that I don't think he'll be able to bring it back. Mackenzie Weegar would be next. But again, it's not panic. Like, I just think, yeah, like, I don't even know where I'm at. Like, I don't expect that much from Mackenzie Weegar or Letang. So that's why there's not a lot of panic there. But, Weegar has shown obviously 20 goals last year. That's amazing. He still get the full power play one treatment. He's getting a boatload of minutes, which I love. I think Calgary's just in a little bit of a cold spell right now, but I think his role is absolutely secure. I'd like to see the points kind of going there, but I mean, peripherally, he's a machine. And then, yeah, I don't really have any worries about Letang because I didn't have big expectations for him. Right. And in fact, I'm kind of excited about Letang. He's on power play one. I didn't expect that. So it's like, I'm not even that worried. I mean, granted, like, he's got 3 points in 10 games. Like, this is not the Letang your parents talked about. All right, folks, this is old man Letang. He's out there with a cane. He's got gray in his beard. He's telling people to get off his lawn. Right. So yeah, that's sort of how I'd rank him. But in terms of players that I'd want, probably Mackenzie Weegar first and McAvoy second, and then, yeah, Letang if he's around. That's sort of how I would rank them for players that I actually want.
Yeah, I think all of that is pretty fair. Letang, yeah, just kind of feels like found money getting the power play one,
Yeah.
and you weren't really expecting that. The points haven't quite been there, but you do expect them to rebound. The underlying stats look fine. They're not, enticing necessarily, but they're fine. Uh, McAvoy has not been great, but it also seems like his role is probably the most secure of these three guys, in my opinion. Like, I don't really think they're going to move him off power play one anytime soon. But Mackenzie Weegar, like, there is still, like, Rasmus Anderson is tearing it
Yeah,
up
he
right
is
now,
actually.
right? So,
But he's still not taking it over, though, even though he's doing that. It's like,
right. But how long does it take
yeah.
before they could potentially make a move there? I don't know. I just don't know how entrenched Mackenzie Weegar really is as the top power play defenseman there. So that is of concern for me. That being said, Mackenzie Weegar, I think, also has the highest ceiling of any of these three guys. And so you have to take that into account as well. As long as he maintains the role that he's in, I do expect the results to improve. So I'm not really panicked that he's going to be much worse than like what I projected him for or anything like that. It's more just, I think that there's maybe a bit better chance that he gets moved off the top power play than the other two. So, yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. And then I did want to talk about a couple of, I guess, lesser rostered guys, but Justin Folk and Lane Hudson, both kind of fallen off from their early hot streaks. Both just one assist their last 5 games. Both still getting 24 plus minutes a night. Justin Falk just under 24. Lane Hudson close to 25. Martin St. Louis absolutely loves this kid, despite him getting absolutely caved in terms of his Corsi. So there is that going on. What's your temperature on these guys? Obviously, Hudson has not been able to displace Matheson for the top power play. Falk is still on the top power play for the moment, but Philip Broberg has looked good behind him at even strength and in a power play 2 role. And there's some, at least talk that maybe Broberg could be a fit on the top power play. How are you working through that for both of these players here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still into Hudson for sure. I like what I see there, and I think he's put a couple good games together. Like I know what you're saying, but also even just looking at this game here against the Flyers, like him and David Savard had a 78% Corsi for percentage at even strength. Like that's pretty damn good. So I think he's starting to earn those minutes. He's making adjustments. Obviously, I think when he came in, he was just trying to do everything offensively, right? Because that's what he's known for. But he's a talented player. He's a crafty player, and I think he's making some adjustments there. And I think he's really has earned some of this ice time, because I thought his deployment was going to fall off a cliff when Matheson came back from that little injury there, and it hasn't. Right, like he's still getting big minutes out there. So I'm happy for it. Like obviously temper expectations. Like if he gets 40 points this year, like that's a massive dub. That's like great. Thank you, Lane Hudson. But I do think that this guy's going to be a player in a few years. Like maybe a potentially like 55, 60 point D-man at some point, right? Like in the sort of Quinn Hughes model, maybe. And not Quinn Hughes, but like a light version of Quinn Hughes. So I'm into Lane Hudson there. Justin Falk, I mean, it is what it is. I cannot find the excitement for St. Louis this year. I never can. Right. And it burns me sometimes. I think it's a bias, right? Like Rob Thomas, I was out on him last year. The guy pops the hell off. I do like Jordan Kyrou, but I don't like Pavel Buchnevich. I'm not really a big fan there. And yeah, their power play, I wasn't excited about it. They're like, I guess we'll put Justin Falk out there. We don't really have anybody else. Scott Perunovich? No. Scott Perunovich is getting 11 minutes a night. Oh, God, that's freaking terrible. But I do like Broberg. Yeah. So I think what you're talking about there is absolutely legitimate. This is a guy they headhunted, they targeted him and wanted him on their team. And now they got him, and he might be a better fit there than Falk. So I really do feel like it could be a matter of time unless Falk starts putting some points on the board. And one thing I do like about Falk over Hudson is his ability to score goals, right? Even without power play 1, I think, Falk he's going to be valuable for fantasy. He's going to start putting the biscuit in the basket, right? 1 goal in 9 games. I think he's a guy that can flirt with double digits.
Yeah, I tend to agree on that there. I'm curious where you got your numbers on Hudson, because I'm seeing him at 47% Corsi for percentage at 5v5 in this game. But either way, yeah, I think
Frozen Tools. That's where
okay.
I'm at. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they have a different model or something.
Yeah, either way, I think that Montreal probably doesn't have anybody else.
Yeah,
a
fair
little
enough.
bit, right? So
They got Arbor Shakai. He got 20 minutes the other night out of nowhere. Like, what? All right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's maybe just a little bit of a strategy to get fans excited about the team too. He's obviously a really exciting player to watch on any given night. So there is that element to it too, and I don't discount
Talking about the
that.
eye test, Nate? Is that what you're saying?
I'm talking about the eye test for the coach, which matters for the metrics for fantasy.
Okay, I see how you're putting it.
But yeah, do have concern for Falk. Yeah, the underlying numbers have not really been that great. It's fallen off in a big way here. I do think there's a chance that he gets moved off the top power play, and I'm not sure that you can really roster a second defenseman from St. Louis outside of the guy on the top power play there. He will still get tons and tons of even strength minutes. I think that's pretty much assured. But yeah, Rob Thomas is out for the next little while. Yeah, I'm hoping for better things for Justin Falk. He was a big target for me this offseason. But yeah, I'm concerned a little bit with what I'm seeing there. And quite honestly, I have not rostered Lane Hudson anywhere. I did not draft him anywhere, and I'm not really interested in him until he has top power play. Even with the points that he scored early on, like he's doing nothing else. The shots are not really there. 188th amongst all defensemen, shots per 60 on the season. Yeah, there's not really much there to entice me. He looks good out there, like he's a very active player, but yeah, there's nothing in the profile that really suggests to me that he's valuable for fantasy unless he's on the top power play unit. So that's my take on Lane Hudson. If we didn't talk about a player that you wanted to hear about, you should make sure to join me for Monday's 8 p.m. EST live stream, where I will go over puzzling players as requested by the Discord server. I put the call out somewhere around noon every Monday, I should say, on Discord, and people will write in who they want me to talk about, who they want me to dig deep into, and we do that on stream live 8 p.m. every Monday. So come and check that out. Yeah, ask your questions in chat. We'll be able to get to a lot of them. Blake, we got to keep moving. Are you ready to go under the hood?
Let's do it. Let's look under that hood.
Under the hood, we got to talk about Pavel Dorofeyev. Had a statement game here on Saturday night. 1 goal, 2 assists, 9 shots, 12 shot attempts, 8 individual scoring chances, 4. Played 18-15. 5 of those shots and a goal came on the top power play unit, where he's gone since Victor Olofsson was injured. In the last 5 games here, he's got 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points, averaging 17 minutes average time on ice, 20th in the league in shots per 60, 32nd individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 32nd on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. This is a guy who's feeling it at the moment for sure. And the interesting thing for me with Dorofeyev is that the sample size is small on him. Like, he hasn't played even 82 games in the league so far in his career. So for sure the sample size is small here, but this is a guy who's maintained greater than 10 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 since coming into the league, and a relatively high shooting percentage. So I think the shooting percentage being high might be a feature, not a bug so far. And that's exciting for a guy like Dorofeyev. This is definitely not a sure thing. I'm not saying like this is the guy, you got to have him, he's going to pop off for 80 points this year, nothing of that kind. But this is the type of profile you have to get excited about in a limited sample. You have to speculatively add this type of player in the hopes and dreams that he may continue this. Yeah, I just think when you're seeing a guy getting 18 minutes, popping off for a game of this caliber, the underlying metrics have been good basically for his entire young career in the league. I just think this is like the Ross Colton light. This is the the corollary to Ross Colton in my mind. What do you think of Dorofeyev? Are you targeting him aggressively? He's only 4% rostered at the moment. I checked it. It's probably going up as we speak, as people are trying to get themselves acquainted with this name. He's already rostered in all my leagues and
me too.
in all the listener leagues as well. So that's definitely a player that the listeners are aware of. But what do you think of Dorofeyev? What do you think of his prospects for the rest of the season here?
I love it. I'm here for it. This is a guy I was into last year in a small size. I remember I traded for him in a dynasty. I just had him as a throw-in at the beginning of last season. I'm like, yeah, throw Pavel Dorofeyev in there. But I felt like this was a player that could do something. And yeah, I love seeing games like this last one you talked about, where 1 goal, 2 assists, 9 shots, 12 attempts. To me, like, one thing, I interviewed Jack Hahn, who's he was a coach for the Leafs, like a video coach for the Maple Leafs, and he's a hockey analyst. And yeah, he was talking about, just in terms of fantasy, something that really stuck with me that he talked about is how many times a guy touches the puck. Like, it's a really simple thing, but if you're shooting 9 times, you have 12 attempts, eight of them are scoring chances. Like, you're not only touching the puck a bunch, so you're involved in the play. You're having a lot of dangerous chances as well, right? So I just love the fact that this guy has the confidence. The coach has the confidence to let this guy touch the puck as much as he is, and having him on power play 1 over Barbashev. Like, Barbashev was doing well there on power play 1, and they decided to move him down. It's not like it wasn't working. They decided based on this guy's play to get him up there on power play 1. So I love that he has the coach's confidence, and that game, like you said, a statement game, really nice. 18 minutes time on ice in that game too, really nice. after a 17-minute game as well. So I think this guy should be a spec ad for you. And, we see what comes out in the wash. But like you said, this is a guy you want to get in on. And if it doesn't work out, then you just kick him back to the curb, right? But this is a great week to find out because it's a great streaming week. You can afford to lose a game. If you drop like a 4-game player for a 3-game player, like you can do that, right? It's not a big deal because you can make up those games in other ways, right? So I'm definitely curious about Dorofiev, and I'm going to try and acquire him wherever I can.
All right. You heard it here first, folks. Let's move over to move of the week. Blake, why don't you hit us with yours first?
Sure, buddy. Real quick. Yeah, I just had I've had a great week. First off, low key brag for me. But in one of the leagues, I was really close in my matchup there. It's a points league. And my opponent had a lot more games than me today. I was in the lead, but he had more games and he was projected to have more points. So I just had Cole Caulfield playing today. And he had like 5 or 6 guys, including Cam Talbot and a bunch of fringe Jersey players. So, this is a league too that's interesting. It has a moves cap. Like you only have 30 moves for the entire league, and it's a weakness of mine, these moves caps leagues, because I'm like I do moves all over the place because I'm trying to find my goalie. I'm trying to find that next hot thing, right? So I have to exercise a lot of patience here. And I had to decide if I wanted to, like Calvin Pickard was available. I saw he got the start. I had to decide if I wanted to pick him up and try and secure the victory there. And I did, because I think it's really important to, use your moves and try and scratch and claw for every little victory, right? And unfortunately, it didn't work out. Like I was ahead, but then Eric Holla got a goal and Brendan Dillon got an assist. These are the type of guys that he beat me with. What a ding dong. But I mean, to me, the moral is there. Like, I want to give myself every chance to win, and every win counts. Playoff seeding is important. Having a bye week is important, right? And like I said, I just want to scratch and claw for every win. I think you should too. In the end, fantasy hockey is just luck, really, at the end of the day, right? We try and put everything on our side, and we continue to do that, and we adjust. But at the end of the day, it's just luck. It's players that perform. It's like Eric Holla scoring a goal with 1 minute left, assisted by Brendan Dillon. What? Like those are 2 guys that he just beat me with 1 goal. Like that's really hard to take. But I mean, luck to me equals preparation and opportunity, right? And that's how we do it. So I'm going to keep doing that. Don't be afraid to use your moves to, try and get yourself a dub in the week if you can.
For sure. Yeah, I used my moves early again this week in a lot of leagues, and there was some reasoning behind that. So in one league, I was really, really far ahead after the Thursday heavy night, and there's like quite literally no chance that I was going to lose it. And so I was looking at, am I really going to roster Brendan Dillon for Friday, Sunday, or am I going to use this move now, this final move of the week, and get a priority streamer for the following week? This is in Cacuffle, actually. And Mikhail Backlund stood out kind of like a sore thumb in terms of the streaming schedule versus everybody else that was available there. And so I did use it on Backlund, got him early, got that set. Things could happen, injuries could happen, but I think in that particular case, it was worthwhile. And a couple of other spots, I was looking at where I can put these moves to the most use, and it seemed to me that really I needed to make the moves earlier to get the extra games played. There's an instance where I could drop a guy who wasn't even going to play for me on the Saturday, and I could get 2 games played from the Friday, Sunday, and so that was worth it to me to get those games played on the week and to put that on my side rather than just wait for the Sunday. Those are just a couple of scenarios. I often preach that you shouldn't use your ads as much as possible. You should try to save them to the end of the week. You can end up using them to set yourself up really well for the following week if you don't need them, if you don't absolutely need them. But there are times, and I think it's important to note when it makes sense to actually use those ads early and to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best position to win the particular week that you're in, as you were saying, Blake. All right. Unfortunately, we do have to take care of one more piece of business before we get out of here, and that is to recap the head-to-head streamer deathmatch. And unfortunately, it does appear that Paul Cotter scored 13.5 Cacuffle points versus Morgan Frost, who managed to piss off John Tortorella enough to get himself benched, or basically benched, demoted to the 4th line anyway. 9.5 points for Frost on the week. So on the season, Blake, you're up 2-1. You can take your victory laps here.
All right, sweet. Yeah, Paul Carter, just as I predicted, Nate. It feels good, and I should have taken last week too. Really, I mean, what the hell happened there? Mikhail Granlund, buddy. All right, you got lucky, Nate, and I'm not letting it happen again. I'm stepping down on the neck here. I gotta take you out early.
All right, that was a pretty aggressive talk,
Oh
even for a
yeah,
death match. But yeah, I have to say, it feels absolutely horrendous to lose to Paul Cotter in a streamer scenario. But next week we've got your Gabriel Velarde versus my Kirill Marchenko, and
yes.
we'll obviously get to see how that goes. If you made it this far, click the link in the description, join the Discord community, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment. All that really does help us out a lot. But that is going to be all that we've got for this episode. Hopefully, it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, which is a terrific free resource.
That's
Many
true.
thanks to the band there for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.